attractive price-wise is going to be really, really urgent. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Chris Loder.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for calling me into debate. It's a pleasure to contribute and to follow the Honourable Lady for Richmond Park. Madam Deputy Speaker, I should draw the House's attention to to the Members' Register, and also that I worked for the Railways for a long time before I was elected to this House. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very proud of the Government's ambition and determination to level up the UK. I'm particularly proud to hear all the bills that have come forward in the Queen's speech, but of course particularly pleased as well to hear about the Transport Bill. Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to focus my remarks on rail, on bus and road as part of this debate. First of all, the Great British Railway proposal is really, really good for the United Kingdom, the whole of the United Kingdom. I'm particularly pleased that the model that I think has probably got to the end of its life, and that life has been a very good one because we've seen passenger numbers increase 100% over that period since privatisation began. But I think the government have fully understood that things do need to change. But I would like to draw the government's attention particularly to some initiatives that could be further opportunities within the GBR initiative. We see in other countries, and I'll take Japan for example, where the relationship between real estate and funding for railway operations is very, very close, to the extent where often we actually don't see any, or the Japanese don't see government investment required because of the model of which they adopt. It is something that's very worthwhile to be considered, and I would urge the Minister to ask her civil servants, her officials to consider it. But as part of the enormous amounts of money that are invested in transport, I think it's really important that we do not get carried away with the number of billions that is going to be spent. We need to be more concerned about the specific outputs that we see rather than the amount of money that's going to be spent. Because from my perspective, we are seeing X number of billions. I mean, I think my honourable friend, the Chairman of the Select Committee, mentioned earlier I want to say 27.4 billion that Highways England had. I'm sorry, I can't remember if that was quite right. But an enormous amount of money that's been given to Highways England, yet for years and years and years we can see consultation after consultation before we actually see any spades in the ground. And that, of course, is the same within railways, particularly, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Rail Network Enhancement Plan. That's been a long time coming. We've seen some really good announcements for the Midlands and the North. The Integrated Rail Plan is bringing £96 billion to the Midlands and the North. Regrettably, Madam Deputy Speaker, in the South West, we haven't got anything yet. And what's even worse, where we've had previous announcements from Network Rail about the investment in re-signalling to enable more capacity or more flexibility, those schemes at the end of the last control period were deferred with no hope in sight of the most basic re-signalling programmes. And I think it's important, Madam Deputy Speaker, that whilst we in this House talk a lot about the tens of billions, and I know the party opposite want more than 96 billion, forgetting, of course, that we pay £82 billion a year in interest at the moment, we must remember the other parts of the country, particularly the rural parts, and specifically the southwest. The local challenges we've had have been immense in Dorset and Somerset, and I'm grateful for the Minister's support with returning the frequency and the direct services on the Waterloo-Exeter line and the Waterloo-Dorchester and Weymouth line, which have come into effect at the last timetable. I would like to give a particular mention to GB Rail Freight, Madam Deputy Speaker. They are a freight operator who I think we should be incredibly proud of as a parliament in this country, because they are taking important steps to decarbonise the freight sector of the railway. They have recently introduced their first Class 99 hybrid locomotive that will eventually succeed the diesel power Class 66, and I think will go a long way to decarbonise the freight network, and we have much to learn from them. I would also, Madam Deputy Speaker, like to mention the fact that the railways in the Ukraine and the help that we give to transport and railways with the Ukraine is not often spoken about in this House. We have great pride in some of the things that we as a nation have done in decades past to help those escaping tyranny by train. But this is an area we haven't done very much. And I know we're not a neighbouring country to the Ukraine, but I would urge the government to participate and to actively support initiatives such as I have with Allrail, which is a group of European train operators who have operated up to the border, the Polish-Ukrainian border, and brought people out of the Ukraine across Europe. It would be a wonderful statement for the government, on top of all the wonderful work it's done so far, to participate in such initiatives. And I would encourage the Minister to consider that, if I may. Madam Deputy Speaker, I would just like to briefly cover off finally the bus service improvement plan. That, for something for Dorset, has been quite painful. I fully recognise it's been good for the country in many ways, but for Dorset and many other rural areas, we've not been successful. And I think it's important that the government considers what can be done to support rural areas. I'm not talking about financial bungs necessarily, about what tangible initiatives can be done, and that would be very much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the member